As someone who's very prone to negative emotion.
You know what you're looking at.
And understand that things
I came here to say.
In fact, there are probably things that
what I try to do is just try to be still and understand that things come and go, emotions come and go. The important thing is to accept them all. To embrace them all. And then you can choose to do with them what you want versus being controlled by emotion.
Also decreases neuroticism. There's a negative correlation between conscientiousness and neuroticism, and it looks causal in that more orderly and industrious people suffer less from negative emotion. Okay, that's probably because they put their environments in order, right? They actually keep order in their immediate environment, so things are neat and orderly around them, but they also work hard so that the future is more stable. Okay, so then what else? There's an emergent literature showing that excess concern about the narrow self is associated with self-conscious suffering. So, for example, you can discriminate between people who are depressed and or psychotic and those who are not with about 75% accuracy by calculating the relative number of self-referential pronouns that are used in speech or writing of the people involved. And the more people concentrate on themselves, their narrow selves, the more miserable they are. And that's buttressed by findings showing that in the scales that measure trait neuroticism or negative emotionality, self-consciousness is actually a facet of the scale itself, which means that acute self-consciousness is so tightly associated with misery that they may be essentially the same thing. So now you can't really escape from that trap by consciously trying to think less about yourself, because if you start thinking less about thinking about yourself, you just end up thinking more about yourself. That's not helpful. But what you can do, this is extremely useful, is you can start thinking about how to put other people at ease and what you can do for other people, like how you can be of service. And paradoxically, because that takes the self-conscious stress off you, then your negative emotion levels will fall. So
Feels familiar. If fear is your natural habitat for long enough, you'll seek it out.
You know, I've heard a lot of experts say that fear isn't real. That is such a bunch of baloney. Fear is so real. In fact, there are probably things that you're afraid of doing right now in your life, in your relationships, at work. That's going to limit your ability to travel and see the world or go visit friends. If you're afraid of public speaking, that's going to really limit your ability to express yourself and share your ideas. If you're afraid of talking to your boss or asking for a raise, that directly impacts how much money you make. Or what if you are dreaming of starting a business, or you've already started a new business, but you're afraid to talk to people and you're afraid to share your business with people? I mean, fear is something that stops us all. And that's why I'm here to talk to you, because it doesn't have to. Fear is real, but I am going to share a secret weapon that I have used for years to beat every single fear that used to stop me. Now, first, before we get into this secret weapon, I just want to cover a few facts about fear, what it is, what it isn't, and some things that you may not know about fear. So first thing, fear is a physical state in your body that is exactly the same as excitement. Let me say that again. Fear and excitement are the exact same physical state. Your heart races. You might sweat a little bit. You might feel tightening in your chest. You might feel a pit in your stomach. You have a surge of cortisol. It's basically the way that your body goes into a hyper-aware state because it's readying for action. Now, what's the difference between fear and excitement? Really simple.
Here's the thing I found out about God's favor. My emotional focus determines whether I go to frustration, fear, fighting, or favor. So the Lord said He wanted to give you the gift this last month of the year, whoever this is for. He wants to give you your emotional focus back. And what that is going to require, I want to make sure you're down, because this is not going to be easy. You are going to have to let go of some certain attachments to familiar things that are blocking God's favor. I don't mean you're going to leave the city. I don't mean you're going to flee the state. I don't mean you're going to move to Canada. I mean that in this moment, you are going to decide what has been in your backyard all along that is bigger than what you're going through and living in right now. That my focus, listen, my focus is my favor, not your favor. God gave you a favor. God gave me a favor. God gave you a family. God gave me a family. God gave you a gift. God gave me a gift. Every preacher watching me. God gave you a church. God gave me a church. Everybody watching this that wants God to do something that He's doing for somebody else. It is time for you to focus on the favor that God has given you in this season of your life. And I promise you this, at Nizio, you will find what you're looking for. If you want to look for goodness, it's on your right hand. If you want to look for mercy, it's on your left hand.
I feel anxious about whether or not I'm going to remember what I came here to say. I feel anxious about whether or not you guys are going to agree with what I came here to say. And if I'm completely honest, up until about 30 seconds ago, I felt a little bit anxious about the possibility of tripping up this rug on the way. But I think feeling anxious about these things, while seemingly unhelpful, is perhaps understandable. After all, it's important to me that I say exactly what I came here to say, that my message gets heard, and that I achieve this without falling flat on my face. Yeah, right now, anxiety makes sense. But there was a time in my life when anxiety really didn't make sense. I used to feel the kind of anxiety that meant I would struggle to even walk into a room with this many people in it, let alone stand at the front and give a talk. Now, obviously, something has changed since then, otherwise I wouldn't be standing here now. And I think the main thing that's changed is that whilst I still experience anxiety, I no longer suffer with it. But I didn't achieve this shift by trying to get rid of it. Now, don't get me wrong, back in the day, that's exactly what I was trying to do. I would do all I could to avoid any anxiety-inducing situation. I would arrange my daily movements, specifically avoiding social situations. If I felt anxiety starting to flare up, I'd run away. I'd do all I could to retreat to safety and then employ various distraction techniques to take my mind away from the horribly uncomfortable feeling that something bad was about to happen. But it turns out that was my big mistake. You see, you don't get rid of anxiety by trying to get rid of it. Truth is, you don't get rid of anxiety at all. Now, by some twist of fate, or perhaps as a direct result of what I went through back then, I now work with anxiety sufferers to help them understand and ultimately overcome those feelings. I've spent a large part of the last 10 years talking to anxiety sufferers about their anxiety. And whilst all those I spoke to had their own individual story, their own personal journey with anxiety, every single one of them at some point expressed exactly the same desire that I used to have, the desire to get rid of anxiety completely. Can you imagine if we all achieved that? A world without anxiety? Well,